So yeah, let's start with a number that I took from the grant agreement and the sector. And I think it puts everything in context. So the global quantum cryptography market was worth in $128.9 million in 2022. It is projected to reach 291.9 million by 2026. That is a compound annual growth rate of 20.8%, one of the fastest growing segments in the entire cybersecurity landscape. The solution segment alone, the part of the market most relevant to the companies in this room, is projected to reach 194.2 million by 2026. So this is a category that is moving from early adoption to mainstream infrastructure, driven by regulatory pressure, by the increasing sophistication of nation-state threats, and by a growing awareness in boardrooms and government ministries. So in this slide, who sells? I searched a little bit on your profiles. And here in the room, there are research and innovation labs, cybersecurity consultancies, and also industry associations and clusters. So who are the buyers for these companies, organizations? So banking, finance, security, insurance, banks, exchanges, clearing houses, government and defense, ministries, agencies, healthcare, infrastructure, and private businesses. Let's see if we can continue. Yes. So in this slide, this is very important. Who are we talking to? So your buyer normally is a committee. So each person needs different content at different times in different places. So it's not the same that you're trying to reach a chief information security officer or IT person. So yeah, in the case of the chief information security officer, their question would be, what are we protected? So the content they need in this case is threat intelligence, compliance overviews, certifications, and so on. And the best format to reach them is with information in a one-page brief or a report, for example. For a chief technology officer, the question is, will it integrate? So the content they need is architecture, documents, API guides, migration white papers, and so on. So the best format, web paper, or if you are going to participate in a webinar, you yourself organize webinars in the topic, you can share it with this person. Then we have the chief financial officer. Their question would be, is it worth the cost? So cost of break data, you need to show the ROI models, the return on investment. This is a way of measuring whether financial decision is worth making or not. For example, you need to be like more financial focused, with also total cost of ownership calculators. So the format would be the return on investment tool, maybe a case study, things that you can share with this chief financial officer. If you're talking to the IT or operations person, who runs this? So deployment guides, service level agreement details, integration checklist, and the best format would be a demo, a pilot, documents like that. If you're talking to the board or risk department, so the important thing and the important question is, what is our exposure? They will ask that. So the content that they need in this case is regulatory landscape, sector compliance, risk summaries, and yeah, the best format is executive briefing, one pager, and so on. Next. Yeah. I have a little window that annoys me a lot. Sorry. So why content is important? In your sector, in your topic, the content is very important because it will give you trust, and you can build trust throughout this content, the content you publish. Could be threat intelligence reports, white papers, could be case studies, webinar appearances, conference talks, etc. So in this field, no free trials. I hope you're not using free trials to try to engage the person, because you cannot give a free trial, as we said before, and say, okay, I will come 30 days later. So the content is the only way to demonstrate value before a proof of concept is agreed. Trust before features. So they need to trust you. Security buyers don't evaluate features first, they evaluate credibility. So they will ask, who published the best threat report, who spoke at Black Hat? That I don't know if you know it, but it's an event that it takes place normally annually. It takes place in the USA, but we also have in Europe some Black Hats. I think in December last year, it was held in London. And what makes Black Hat particularly credible in this case, for example, is that it has a reputation for being highly technical and vendor neutral. So the presentations that they throw and they deliver are peer reviewed, meaning they are selected for their genuine research and technical depth rather than a sales pitch, for example. So taking part in events like that could be a very good idea to gain credibility and build the trust that we already talked about. And then education comes first. So most buyers don't know they have a quantum vulnerability yet. Your content has to create the problem in their mind before you can offer the solution. And it's not that you have to create the problem is already there, but you need to make them see the problem and give some visibility to that. No, most organizations today are encrypting their data using classical cryptography, and these are considered secure by today's standard. But we don't know if in 1 year and 2 years it will be the same. Let's go to the next one. Okay. So here is the content strategy framework that I propose. So 4 content pillars. Every asset you create should belong to one of them. First of all, the threat intelligence. This is more for chief information security officers, board department, government, etc. Annual quantum threat reports could be some of the content you can have, sector briefings, and then the harvest now, decrypt later explainers. Harvest now, decrypt later describes an attack strategy that sophisticated people are already executing today. The strategy works in 2 phases in this case. In one phase, the first phase is happening now. The attacker intercepts and collects encrypted data, and it travels across the networks. And then in the future, once quantum computers reach sufficient computational power, they decrypt the information. So you need to show those kind of target groups like boards, chief information security officer, and governments that this is a threat and this is an important one, and maybe they should take it into account. So the format, as we said, reports, graphics, press. Then we have the technical educations, and this is more for chief technical officers or IT operations. Quantum key distribution versus post-quantum cryptography guides, for example. Post-quantum migration checklists, architecture white papers, and the format could be white papers, webinars, docs, documents. Business case content. This is more for chief financial officer and board. So cost of break calculators, compliance overviews by sector, with the ROI, the return on investment models, total cost of ownership frameworks. So the format in this case could be the tools or one-pagers, briefings, and things like that. And then we have the social proof, which applies to everyone, vertical case studies, pilot results, reference customer stories, or partner co-success. So the format could be case studies, video events, and so on. Yeah. So the content funnel. Here I displayed the gate strategy. So different stage, different content job, gate strategically, not aggressively. So gating refers in this case to the practice of requiring a visitor to provide their contact information. It could be typically name, email, address, and company, maybe the role that they in which they work, before they can access the piece of content. So the content always sits behind the form, and you only get the information once you fill in the form. So as you can see, at the top of the funnel, we have the awareness stage. In this case, content should almost always be ungated. So you can write and you can have on your website threat intelligence articles, you can post LinkedIn posts, conference talks, you can have, of course, on your website the blog posts regarding those topics that we already shared. So in this case, the goal is maximum reach. So you want as many people as possible to find this content, read it, share it, and associate your company with expertise. So putting a gate here, like form or a barrier, kills the distribution and defeats the purpose entirely. So in the first stage, the awareness stage, that you're going to write the threat landscape reports, blog, is your data quantum safe? You can post on conference talks or maybe podcast if you're running any, should be for free. I mean, no barriers there. At the middle of the funnel, we could be interested a stage. A light gate makes sense here. So a white paper, a detailed quantum key distribution paper versus post-quantum cryptography guides, a webinar recording. So these have enough perceived value, I would say, that the buyer will willingly provide their email address to access them. So I would say that this is a fair exchange for the content that you are providing. So here I put the light gates, so it could be with the email capture, for example. At the end of the funnel, that here we can say the evaluation of the decision stages, the dynamic shifts again. So at this point, the buyer is in active conversation with your sales team. So the content is no longer distributed through a website form or things like that. It is delivered directly by the sales representative in a personalized way, in this case, of course. So a case study sent specifically because the chief financial officer just joined the conversation. It could be a compliance document shared because the legal department raised a specific concern. So the gate here is the sales relationship itself. Yeah, and here we have the proof of concept. For example, this is a structured pilot project that a potential buyer runs with the vendor's technology before committing to full purchase. Of course, you need to have this because the buyer needs to see that the technology actually works as claimed and can integrate with their existing system, for example. So yeah, in a market where most buyers don't yet know that they have a problem, if you aggressively put a gate at the top of the funnel, this will damage everything, not just the purchase, but the credibility and everything. So you need maximum reach at the awareness stage, as we said before, because you are trying to create the market, not just capture demand that already exists. So every gate you put in front of the awareness content reduces the number of people who will actually get into your world. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. Yeah, in this slide, which is the community engagement, We have the standard bodies. In this case, for example, you could try and participate in the European Union Agency for Cybersecurity, in the European Telecommunications Standard Institute, for example, or in the European Cybersecurity Organization Post-Quantum Working Groups. Certification sign-ons credibility to every procurement team. You can try to, reach industry associations, so banking security, healthcare IT, defense tech associations. Your buyers attend their events, read their publication, trust their endorsement. And we said before that building trust is the most important thing in your sector. Innovation cluster, you can, next tech and identify, and regional tech hubs aggregate the smaller enterprises and facilitate business-to-business connections you cannot reach directly if you're a small company, for example. Academic and research networks, of course, if you try to establish a relationship and engagement with universities and try to co-publish with them, co-present at research conferences as well, that would give you trust and credibility and so on. Every paper is a content asset that you can also put it on your website, maybe put the gate or not, depending on the stage that you are in. Every collaboration is a trust signal, as we said. This is very important. And then partner ecosystems, that could be part of the community, and you could try to engage with them. So system integrators, which are large consulting and technology firms whose core business is designing, building, and implementing complex IT and security systems for enterprise and government clients. So that could be a good target for you. The telecoms, the telecommunication companies, and the managed security services providers, which are companies that manage and monitor and organizations of your security on an ongoing outsourced basis. So try to engage with them, because many of them will have newsletters, and maybe you can try to join the community there, try to publish, work with them, partnership with them, whatever. Client briefings and events of their own. Okay. So as I said, if you have any questions, you can interrupt, because I think the community engagement, I know, how do you normally engage with your community? If you want to share your experience, that would be great, because I find your topic so niche and so specific, and so, as we said, with long sales cycles, and where content and credibility is everything. That I don't know if you already try to approach any of those community blogs, or if you have another strategy to do it, if you are missing some of the community cycle that you normally approach. Does any of you want to share something here? Because I think it would be very, I cannot see, but I heard the...
We have from Marty, he has raised his hand, so...
Okay, Marty.
Hi, this is Mahdi from Neutron asking. Thank you very much for the presentation. I liked a lot the first slide where you kind of highlighted who might ask what. It was a good slide, but I also want to add one kind of row in that slide, that from the buyer point of view, they kind of ask us to convince them that the solution is secure enough. So we are partnered with kind of Lux Quanta and Mercury in the open calls. We are kind of, they provide the quantum cryptography to the consortium, and we provide the 5G network. Our customers are asking us that how we can convince them that the 5G network solution is secure enough? I mean that, is there any kind of KPIs we can collect, or we just ask them, okay, attack the network and see if you can if you can break the network or not? So I mean that, is there any way, any documentation, any result sharing with them that convince them, okay, okay, the network is secure enough. For the documentation, we can say, okay, we are using this algorithm, we are generating this key, and we hope the network is secure enough. But they need some kind of evidence on that. How we can convince them? I'm not talking about the quantum community. I'm talking about the telecommunication community, that they want to trust to this technology.
Telecommunication. Well, I think as we said, sometimes if you share success stories or use cases where you have, I don't know, some kind of attacks, and the solution finally gets victorious, maybe that could help. At least you can show some proof of evidence, like, look, we had this problem in this time, and it was attacked by whatever, and then we finally succeed, and the tool could finally remove the risk, the threat, and so on. I don't know about the KPIs in this case, but I can search. Maybe any other in the meeting now knows if they had some experience similar to this one. Maybe they can share their experience and how they deal with those kind of questions, because I think those are very like normal questions if you are thinking of buying a solution like this, like it's secure enough. Probably depending on the company and the buyer, maybe the chief information security officer knows better than anyone what kind of threats and what kind of experiences they had. Maybe they can share them with you, and you can see if actually you had this attacked and this threat, and how victorious you finally got. I don't know. Does anyone in the room have the same? Yes, I think someone raised the hand, because I cannot see as I have the presentation mode.
No, it was just one person that joined. I don't know if anyone
Okay.
wants to mention something.
Okay. If you want, I may probably can put it in another way and simpler the question, and maybe after the meeting we can kind of contact offline. The question is that, imagine that we are a telecommunication company. We go to our customer and say, hey, we have this 5G network. It's X euro for that, and if you want to add extra level of security, we have some partner which can sell you a quantum cryptography over the 5G network, and the price is Y euro. Then they directly ask us, okay, we pay X euro for the network, and we are prepared to pay another Y euro for the quantum cryptography, but how you confirm that? Then the network is now more secure that without using without paying this Y euro.
Yeah.
So we need to show some evidence that now the network is more secure. Okay, thank you. Maybe after the meeting we can kind of
Yes.
Contact.
I can try. Yeah, I can try to find information about this, but this is so technical, and I'm a marketing person, not that technical. So I'm not so good at threats, attacks, and this. So maybe I can try to find information, but I guess a technical person would help you better than me. So that is why I was asking in the room, in the meeting, if someone else had the same problem, which I think should be a normal one, a very common one. Like, yes, I'm paying an extra amount of money to get this crypto encryption or whatever, and how do I know that this is actually working? Yes, I don't know.
Yes, sorry, here is Josefina from Lux Quanta. Hello, Maddie. Thank you for the question.
Hello.
And hello, Blanca. Thank you for the presentation. Yes, we have the same problem as Maddie said, and we understand when we have a very strong technical team and we speak with technical people from other companies. The security proof and all the key parameter indicator can be good explained, but sometimes in big companies or in big telcos, you are talking with people that is not so technical, and we need
No.
this kind of marketing tools to help our our discussion, you know. So
Yeah.
I think, Maddie, your question is in this direction, not only in the technical part, because when two technical people speak, they sometimes understand each other, but many times you have to speak with the CEO or a sales person, or I don't know, too technical at low level. So we need this kind of marketing tools to explain about security.
Yeah. As I said, I will search a bit, but I think the best thing is to build an answer with the trust and credibility. If you have published scientific publications, peer-reviewed publications, if you have reports, case studies, pilots, whatever, and maybe related to this threat or this extra security level that they are asking for. But yes, me as a marketing person, I would say, okay, if I can see that in the past with this case study, this happened and it was solved and the tool actually worked. So I would say, okay, so that means that it works. That means that it's fine. But yes, I will check. That's interesting. I will write down here and search for you, and I will share it with Mara if I have some findings on that, and so she can share it with you. Anyone else, or we can continue? Okay. So every action creates a content chain. So every community touch point is a content opportunity and a trust building moment, as we said. So a community touch point is any moment where your organization comes into contact with the professional world of your buyers. So it's not just the big formal moment. So it could be every moment. It is every interactions that you may have, every appearance that you can have, every contribution, every conversation, etc. So speak at industry events. If you attend an industry event, try to be part of the conference talk, because you will have a recorded video probably, and then you can create a blog post, and from those blog posts you can create a LinkedIn clip, and you can continue with the same effort that you already did, that you were participating in the conference. Use this for content distributed in different channels, as I said, because it could be YouTube, it could be a blog post, it could be a social media channel like LinkedIn. Host executive roundtables, for example, you can create it, you can host that, you can create a private dinner, I put here, but it could be another little event with a roundtable. Write the insight report, then from this report create the press release, and then from this press release you can write some 3 follow-up posts on LinkedIn as well. Sponsor with working groups, so standards contribution. If you can do that, you can co-author a paper, analyze. From this, you will have an analyze mentioned. You can have also a PR story and so on. So it's to make long, the effort that you already made, and the content that you're already putting in place to make it longer, distribute in different channels, and use it, finally use it. Co-author with universities, as we said before, you can co-author with them in academic papers, scientific publication. You can also write a white paper adaptation from this scientific publication, and then this white paper can have media coverage, or at least social media coverage. You can run webinars, so you can have live session, inviting people. Again, you can record it, make a summary post from that, and then sending it through emails to your contact lists, for example. Yeah, the channel and distribution. So great content published in the wrong place reaches nobody. So distribution is half the strategy. Of course, in your sector, I would say that just LinkedIn is the only social media on YouTube social media channel, or at least the most efficient one, because you can have there many interesting buyers with different profiles, as we said before. You know, the Chief Information Security Officer, the Chief Technological Officer, the board. So through leadership posts from the company, you can also have in your company some experts, and they can also write and post individual posts on LinkedIn. You can also sponsor content targeting job titles, email for named accounts. You can pay for this email that you can make to targeted people that you know that they are the buyers of their companies or their organizations. This is key for banking, finance, and security and insurance, for government, and for defense. And we have also the email. So you have to track them separately, of course, but then you have a multi-track sequences by role. For example, to achieve information security officer, you can share some threat, intel, and compliance information. The chief technological officer, some technical documents. The financial officer, some raw data, and also triggered by content consumption and intent signals. Partner cloud distribution. So here you have the system integrators and also managed security services providers that we already talked about. You can co-branded content, create co-branded content in system integrators newsletters or joint webinars with telcos. Sorry, inclusion in the managed security service providers briefing packs, reaches accounts you cannot access directly. Yes, this is true, because sometimes you don't have the contact, you don't even know who the person in charge of that company or of that organization is, and you can just approach them by co-distributing with those kind of partners. And then we have the direct sales. In this case, I put here some, for example, personalized video outreach. There are some platforms that I will talk about later on. But you know, sometimes the starting point here is the system, a simple problem. You know, sometimes when you send an email to a chief information security officer at a major bank, for example, and it's a person who receives dozens or hundreds of emails like that you're sharing just, okay, I'd love to connect because I want to share the tool or the platform, the solution that can help you, and so on. But you know what, that most of them are, most of those emails are deleted. And why is this CISO going to treat you differently? So in this case, personalized video outreach maybe changes the dynamic, because instead of sending a text email, your sales representative can record a short video, typically from 60 seconds to 90 seconds, that is specifically addressed to that individual, so to that person, you can also show that you know the person by saying the name, or maybe an information news item that you already read on the internet or the newspaper, a recent public statement that they already did, or their specific situation. So, for example, you can say, hello, Mr. Weber. I noticed your company just published its annual cybersecurity report and mentioned concerns about long-term data protection. I wanted to share one specific thing about how organizations like yours in financial services are approaching post-quantum readiness right now, things like that. So in this case, as it's something personalized, specific to this individual, and in a different format as well, because we are not used to videos to have this first contact by email, for example. So in this case, I put Vidyard and Loom, which are the two most widely used tools for this. So both allow sales representatives to record a short video, typically showing their face in a small circle in a corner while walking through the screen, a document, or a simple message, and then send a link that this recipient can click to watch. So in this case, I think both of them, but I'm not sure, can give you some statistics of how many times it was open, until when they watched the video, things like that. And then I put here ABM companies on named accounts. So ABM, which is account-based marketing campaigns on named accounts, is a marketing approach that flips the traditional model, we could say. In traditional marketing, for example, you run a campaign designed to reach as many people as possible. But in this case, this is targeted. So in the previous case, the volume is the strategy, but in this case, it does the opposite. So instead of trying to reach everyone and qualifying them afterwards, you start by identifying a specific list of organizations. Then you run highly targeted, highly personalized marketing campaigns directed exclusively at the people inside those specific organizations. So you may have, I know, a list of names and accounts that include from 50 to 200 organizations, major banks, central banks, government ministries, defense agencies, large hospital networks, critical infrastructure operators, on whatever. You know the names and you know the industries. So you know the people inside them who make the buying decisions in this case. So an ABM campaign in this case on those names accounts means that when the CISO at one of the banks opens LinkedIn, they see your content. When the CTO at the government ministry visits the technology news websites, they see your display advertising. So things like that. It's more specific, more targeted, and so on. And those 6 Sense and Bombora are some of the companies that run those specifically business-to-business campaigns. Okay, next slides. And one thing, a very, very, very important thing, is the measurement and the action plan. So as we said before, your sector is not the typical marketing sector, business to consumer, or even business to business, but another topic. So tracking the pipeline and engagements is more important than tracking impressions in this case. So I put here, stop tracking. If you want to track, okay, welcome, but I think you should focus on something else. So impressions on social media reach is not that important. The follower growth is not that important, because sometimes we can have a company with 50,000 LinkedIn followers and 0 pipeline, or a company could have 200 website visitors a month, and maybe they have 2 million deals in progress. So this doesn't mean something very specific. Of course, if you have more followers, as we are human beings and we get into LinkedIn and you see that you have maybe 3 followers, okay, this is not good. You need to try to make a strategy to grow your follower base, but this is not that important as in other sectors. Email open rates, number of MQLS, website sessions, content downloads, etc. is not that important. So yeah, we will, or at least you should be tracking on things. So for example, qualified pipeline, euros value. So the total euro value of all active viable sales opportunities in your CRM. So the only reliable leading indicator of future revenue in a 12 till 36 month sales cycle, for example. There are some specific tools that can help you with your CRM. It could be Salesforce, HubSpot, or Microsoft Dynamics. You should track the pipeline velocity. This means how fast deals move through your sales stages. So a deal that stops moving is a deal that is dying. So tracking this in the CRM is very important. Then we have the account engaged, ABM percentage. So what that means, what percentage of your named account list is actively interacting with your content and outreach. So tracked via, as we said before, the ABM platforms like 6sense or demand-based, which attribute engagement at the organization level rather than the individual level. For example, here we have the marketing qualified leads to the conversation rate. So that's then the sales qualified lead, we say. This is the percentage of marketing qualified leads that sales confirms as genuine prospects, generally that can become a qualified buyer, for example. So in this case, measures whether marketing is generating quality, not just quantity. So the quality here is much more important. You can track this through the CRM and marketing automation tools like HubSpot, Marketo, or Pardot, for example. Then the win rates and CAC by channel. Win rate is the percentage of opportunities that close finally. And CAC is the total cost to acquire one client. Cost to acquire one client. So tracking both channels tells you which sources produce the best clients most efficiently and where to concentrate resources, of course, because this is a matter always of resources, money, and people, and things like that. So you can track this, of course, via your CRM with consistent source tagging from the moment an opportunity is created. So from the beginning, this is very important. You start very from the beginning to see this path, we could say. Content influence on closed deals. Which content assets contributed to deals that closed? This is what you have to pay attention to. So tracked using multi-touch attribution tools like Visible or HubSpot attribution, which map every content touch point across the entire buying journey of every closed deal. If you want, you can ask Marva will share my email address, and if you want to know about some platforms and could help you with that, I can share them with you. And then here, your first 90 days. This is like how you should go in your first 90 days, more or less, from the foundation to build and then activate. So map your buying committee by account, audit existing content versus the 4 pillars. The 4 pillars, if you remember, are the threat intelligence, the technical education, business case content, and social proof. choose to target verticals to go deep. In this case, yeah, verticals could be banking, government, defense, healthcare, critical infrastructure, also private businesses, of course. You have to identify 2 or 3. So it doesn't mean that randomly, for example, you sign up to 3 mailing lists or follow 3 LinkedIn groups. No, it means selecting 3 specific places where your ideal buyers are already there. So already trust the environment, that's why they are there, and are already having the conversation you need to be part of. Of course, you need to be there. The identification process, you have like 3 steps. So first of all, I would say that you need to map where your buyers are already. So before you can choose which communities to join, you need to know where the people you're trying to reach actually spend their professional time and attention. So for quantum cryptography company, this means that mapping the professional ecosystem of 2 target verticals for sure, for BFSI, so banking, finance, security, and insurance, for example. The relevant communities might include here the European Banking Federation working groups on cybersecurity, the SWIFT Customer Security Program Community, National Banking Association Cybersecurity Committees, for example, the Financial Services Information Sharing and Analysis Centers, yeah, things like that. So for government and defense, the relevant communities might include National Cybersecurity Agency working groups, the NATO cybersecurity forums, EU agencies for cybersecurity known as ENISA, that we already spoke before. Yeah, maybe they have consultation processes. Yeah, public procurement networks where technology decisions are shaped before formal tenders are issued. So the question you are asking at this stage is simple. Where do the CISOs, the CTOs, and security decisions makers in my target verticals go to learn, to share, to stay informed, and to build professional relationships with peers they trust? So you need to identify that. Then in the second step, which has to do with evaluation, you evaluate each community against 3 criteria. So once you have mapped the landscape, you need to evaluate each potential community against 3 criteria to decide which 3 are worth committing to, because, you know, at the end, everything is a matter also on resources. You need time, you need people, you need to do a lot of things. So the first criterion is buyer concentration. So how many of your ideal buyers are actually active in this community? A standard body working group might have only 30 members, but if 20 of them are CISOs at major European banks, it is far more valuable than a LinkedIn group with more than maybe 10,000 members, where your buyers are small minority, for example. The second criteria is contributing opportunity. Can your organization genuinely add value to this community, not just consume from it? So the best communities for quantum cryptography companies are the ones where your specific technical expertise is generally useful to the other members. So because in this case, they will perceive you as an organization and a person to trust, with expertise, like an expert voice, we can say. So if you can answer questions to others, solve problems, you can contribute to this community. And then the third criteria is the content chain potential. Will your participation in this community generate material that can be turned into content? Of course, you can join the group and you can contribute, but maybe you can take advantage from that and finally find in this community other people with whom you can write a paper or throw a webinar, I don't know. So, but these kind of actions and strategies create natural opportunities to generate content and also trust. So I would say that is one of the best ways. Then the step choose in this identify 3 community touch points to join. So you have to also choose a community, and then the second stage from day 31 till 60, more or less. This is also something, an approach, and this is not something like it should be like this. You can produce one flagship threat intelligence report, you can launch personal tracked email sequences, you can activate LinkedIn ABM on named accounts, as we already talked about. You can submit one speaking proposal to a key event, for example, and then activate. So publish content across all funnel stages, because do you remember the funnels we have from the awareness till the end, and you need to be there, publishing and thinking how interesting is the information that we are publishing to this specific target group. Host first webinars with a partner or expert, brief one analyzed, gather or forester. So this is the final slides with the key takeaways. So quantum cryptography is trust sale, as we said. Content is your proof of credibility before any sales conversation begins. So you need to create content. This is very important. Build content around the 4 pillars that we already talked about: threat intelligence, technical education, business case, and social proof. Map every asset to a funnel stage, and gate at the top, at the awareness stage, a gate in the middle, and then sales-led at the bottom. Community is not social media in your case. It is standards bodies, associations, academic networks, and partners ecosystems. Every community action creates a content chain. So one roundtable becomes 5 assets, because if you do something, you can take advantage from what you have contributed to and create more assets. And then this is also very, very important to measure the pipeline influence and account engagement, not impressions or followers. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing because this was the last one. Let me go to your window so I can see you. Yes, here you are. So thank you so much. I don't know if you have questions. I know that Marva will share with you the presentation and my email address, so you can contact me whenever you want if you need information on the tools that I already shared and the information that I have, and I will be more than happy to share it with you. Yes, I will also look for more information on what Marty asked. And that's it. I don't know if you have more questions or suggestions, or maybe you want to share your experience and we can learn, all of us, from that. If you already reached a standard body, an organization, big thing that you created the relationship engagement, you can contribute, you found there your buyers, or at least people with whom you can partner with. I don't know, whatever you want to share.